Is there any hope left for the mutants of Krakoa? Will the Phoenix Blade truly be the thing to free them from the evils of the Dominion? Or has their future already been set in stone? Well, let's hop into the pages of X-Men Forever issue number 4, the grand finale of this mini, and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, we open up on a familiar scene. Mr. Sinister is going to a very distraught Destiny, who says that her powers to see the future have been greatly altered by all this brand new Phoenix. Development's time is officially out of whack now, and she no longer knows what the future actually looks like. On one hand, this is actually a good thing because it means the Dominions aren't in control anymore. Mr. Sinister even says that he had created a ton of different algorithms to try and predict mutant movements once upon a time, only for the Phoenix to arrive and burn up everything that Essex had been working on. In reality, though, this isn't probably the thing that's actually eating up Destiny right now. The problem is that every future she tries to look at ends with the love of her life, Mystique, dead, and even an absolute sociopath like Mr. Sinister can clearly see that that's the real problem here. Love is clouding Destiny's visions, and the only way to get them right for Irene and Raven to finally make up. Where's Mystique going right now? Well, she's getting as many guns as she can carry to go and deal with Professor Xavier, now that she knows her own memories were tampered with regarding the birth of her son Nightcrawler. Once again, these two morally dubious star-crossed lovers end up completely stealing my own heart when Destiny says, if the world were to be turned to dust tomorrow, then the only two things that would still exist would be dust and my love for you. Ah, that's so sweet. From there, we transition on over to Hope and Legion, who are currently in the process of going on the biggest, most climactic bird hunt ever known. Surely, if any two people could catch and tame the unstoppable power that is the Phoenix Force, it would be the mutant's greatest power manifester and greatest power manipulator. It's during this very important trip, Hope and Legion actually end up broaching the subject of fathers. Legion, of course, has a lot of unfinished business with his own father, Professor X, and Hope, of course, never actually knew her own biological father, instead being raised by Cable, a man whom she wishes could actually be here right now to see this because he positively would have loved shooting at the Phoenix. Hope's parentage actually ends up being very important indeed, because as we flash back in time, we see that the Enigma Dominion has come to Alaska to try and ink a devil's deal with Hope's mother, the idea being that if he can step in and manipulate Hope's genes here in the past, then he can put a stop to her plans to forge the Phoenix Blade and destroy him in the future. The carrot on the end of the stick here is that Enigma promises Hope's mother that if she agrees to go ahead with this, she will be saved a lot of horror and pain and ultimately the death of her own daughter in the future. It's a lot to take in. But hey, you know what? This is still the X-Men we're dealing with, and there's more than enough dysfunctional family shenanigans to go around. Mystique and Destiny actually managed to break into the Orchis Black site where Professor X is being held. It's here that Irene ends up walking away with the absolute line of the issue, if not the line of the entire series, when she basically says, "Damn it, Xavier, let me love my son." Of course, Charles has no idea what she's talking about because he was sure to doctor his own memories of doctoring her memories, but he knows his own handiwork well enough that after monkeying around in her mind for a little bit, he's able to flip a switch and let Destiny's memories of Kirk end up coming flooding back. Now, I know what you're all probably thinking to yourself, geez, isn't it really selfish of these two to go on a little side mission while the entire mutant world is essentially ending all around them? Well, they are selfish. But also, don't forget, Nimrod only came into being in the first place because Xavier, Magneto, and Moira lied to Mystique about ever resurrecting Destiny in the first place. So the fact that he actually helps them out here in the final moments of this era before ultimately letting them go, I think makes them, as close to square as you could possibly be in this sort of situation. And a reminder, too, that even though Xavier kind of sort of turned his back on mutant kind, he's still doing what he thinks is best for all of them. And he's not like mustache-twirlingly evil. I mean, not yet anyway. And hey, speaking of all the things that mothers will do for the love of their children, Jean, using her own Phoenix powers, is able to also travel back in time to Alaska once Hope started getting a weird Enigma crown on her forehead to try and intercede on behalf of mutant kind. Her and Enigma end up having a very spirited debate about what's going on here. How one way or another, they're all heading to some sort of ultimate destruction. Perhaps they were always heading there since the very beginning of Krakoa. Enigma even pulls out the whole, "We're not so different, you and I. We all just drew a big circle around the things that were important to us one day, and then we're more than alright letting everything else die." You want Hope's mother to save mutant kind, but but at the same time, she probably wouldn't even have been allowed to step foot on your beautiful island paradise, so really what reasons are you giving her to help? And honestly, I actually think it is pretty clever here to put this big decision with the fate of mutant kind hanging in the balance on the shoulders of just a regular human woman. So much of the Krakoan era has been about the evils of mankind and mutants kind of having to up their game to combat this evil, so I like in the end it's actually a mother's love for a child she hasn't even met yet being the thing that ultimately allows the infinite Phoenix to be born, as Jean ends up imprinting some of her power on Hope's mother, which in turn ends up creating another massive Phoenix circuit. Something that Hope and Jean means they will now finally have the power they need to forge the Phoenix Blade and slay the Dominions once and for all. Now that is admittedly one big problem solved, but what about all the other mutants who are still very much trapped in the white-hot room? Yeah, some were able to teleport back and forth, but there's still a whole community there, whose fate is still very much tied to the Phoenix's existence, and because of that, still kind of up in the air. It's here at the darkest moment when everything seems to be going wrong. It's actually Kafka, the little kid with the fly wings, who ends up stepping up and saying that everyone needs to come together now more than ever. They need to become their own Quiet Council. Not because they're keeping secrets like the old Quiet Council, but because they're actually taking the time to listen to what everyone actually requires now. And considering that this book looks to be basically the last word written on the Immortal X-Men series, I think it's kind of cool that they brought the whole Quiet Council thing full circle here as the comic comes to a close. And so that was X-Men Forever issue number 4, everybody, and ultimately it was an issue that I ended up enjoying. I thought they brought a lot of very important storylines from the Krakoan era to a close, as well as offering a lot of what I'm sure will be important explanation for some of the bigger stuffs going on in House of X and Powers of X. My complaints remain basically the same as they've always been. While there's lots of cool stuff that happens, it all happens so close together and so quickly, certain things just feel like they don't have the impact they deserve. I also feel like some of these storylines and character arcs we're probably not really going to be able to properly criticize until everything is said and done and the final word is written. Especially considering for characters like Mystique and like Hope, they had years worth of storylines that were spread over multiple different books. In fact, when everything does actually end with issue number 700, it would probably be a fun project for some fan to create a comprehensive timeline of events. Overall, though, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one another 7 out of 10. We're that much closer to the finale now, and I'm definitely excited to see where it all ends up. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.